for new stuff. I put.
Okay, you're good to start.
Thank you so much, Janine. All right, everybody. Hello, greetings, and welcome to this March 2024 meeting of Community Board 4 Transportation Committee. I'm going to read the standard text, and then, as we always do, if we could just take a moment to go around and introduce ourselves for anyone who may be joining us online or for future reference if and when people look back on this meeting. So just the standard text here, MCB4 has adopted a hybrid meeting policy whereby we will meet in person with a remote option. All community board meetings will require an in-person quorum to come to order and conduct business. Committee members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability or an extraordinary circumstance as defined by the New York State Open Meetings Law. Excused members attending remotely can fully participate in the meeting and must leave their cameras on. Due to public health best practices and space limitations, we encourage members of the public to join virtually. Members of the public are attending remotely can fully participate in the meeting. The MCB4 hybrid policy can be found on our website. And as always, tonight's meeting is being recorded and is currently live streaming on YouTube. And with that, I will just quickly introduce myself. My name is Jesse Greenwald, and I am the co-chair of this transportation committee.
Christine Berthe, co-chair.
Hi, I'm Charlie Todd, a member of the committee, resident of Hell's Kitchen.
Frank Brunello, member of the committee.
Rodney Washington, member, Chelsea. Also member, resident, Chelsea.
Pete Diaz, a member, resident of House Kitchen.
David Warren, member and a resident of Hudson Yards.
Gwen Billy, resident. No man's name.
Do we have anyone from the committee online?
I see Charles online.
I'm the poorest resident.
So,
Charlie's here.
I'm also on one.
Sorry, I didn't see you in there. Yeah, that's it. No one else from the committee.
Okay, MSA Colleen from the DOT is with us. That's great. And our presenters for the first item are here too, it looks like. So we have a lot on our agenda this evening, although some of the items are relatively small, hopefully, but we have a lot to get through. So I will kick it off with the first item here. This is where the Meatpacking bid is going to be making a presentation on their Western Gateway Vision project. And so if you are here from the Meatpacking bid, please raise your hand. And Janine will move you over, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I believe we may have one additional member, Mike Leiden, who may be advanced if possible.
Yeah, I see him. I'll bring him over.
And if you wouldn't mind, can I share a screen for the presentation?
Sure. Do you wanna share your screen, or do you want me to share it?
I can share mine. I think that would be easy because I can also advance the slides then.
Yep, go ahead.
Great. So once again, good evening, everybody. My name is Evan Sweet. I'm the Director of Operations and Neighborhood Planning for the Meatpacking Business Improvement District. I'm here along with colleagues of ours from Street Plans, Mike Leiden and Veronica Rivas Plaza. We're really excited to be here this evening, as mentioned, to present some continuing work of ours related to the Western Gateway Area Needs Report, which was published in 2022. With a specific focus on some ongoing work that we've been in progress for related to 14th Street between 9th Avenue and 10th Avenue. Tonight, we're going to show a kind of a very fully built out design developed over the past year following community engagement, design review, and some other considerations and process. And we're really, asking for feedback from the community board, both on some of the geometric elements that we're presenting, but then especially any insight or comment you all have regarding the programmatic elements, so the things that are layered on top of the geometry we're proposing that you'd like to see incorporated into this project. In addition to that feedback, we're really curious and hopeful that CB4 would be able to provide formal support for this ongoing effort as we work towards the implementation of this project in concert and coordination with the Department of Transportation. I'm going to quickly overview kind of the process that we've gotten to get to this design, but really want to give most of our time presenting tonight to Street Plans to really walk you through the presentation. If there's any information that I've gone through that you want to hear more about, we're happy to return to those points as we get to the question portion of the meeting. So with that, I'll begin. As many of you know, in 2022, the Meatpacking District published our Western Gateway Public Needs and Public Realm Vision Plan. This really takes a comprehensive look at the western portion of the Meatpacking District, including the West 14th Street corridor, which we're going to talk about today. This area was identified as a priority area for the Western Gateway program because of a number of challenges that we see along that block, particularly its wide roadway, about 60 feet in width from sidewalk to sidewalk. We've unfortunately been seeing a lot of vacancy in the area on the commercial side of things, as well as a lot of conflict between cars and trucks. Obviously, the TTP, which is in place in there, has changed some of the character of the block, and so we're looking at some of those issues. And then also a recognition of a lot of opportunity along 14th Street, especially taking into account the TTP, and as we think forward towards Central Business District tolling and a reduction in vehicle traffic in this area. Specifically, we're really looking to improve the east-west pedestrian connectivity and kind of pedestrian experience in this area. In the past 3 years, three major major investments have been made along Hudson River Park, its waterfront in this direct vicinity, Little Island, Pier 57, and Gansevoort Peninsula. All of this really fundamentally changing the kind of service and demand for West 14th Street from a pedestrian standpoint. We're also really hopeful to think about how freight can be better delivered to this area and making sure that logistics are supported. And then another major concern is due to the wide width of this roadway, the level of the high volumes of speed, high rates of speed that we're seeing autos use on this corridor, which, while adjacent to the kind of formal TTP, which begins at 8th Avenue, is outside of that boundary and therefore has a higher level of automobile usage than the kind of core of West 14th Street or 14th Street. So we've done a lot of work in the past year to kind of inform this decision-making, including standing up a working group within the bid structure itself to solicit feedback from our community members, property owners, and other representatives within the area. In addition to that, we've worked to host visioning sessions that we did earlier last year to understand what the community is looking for in streetscape improvements, what are some of the key concerns and issues at stake, and then how we can incorporate that feedback into the design, which we have tonight. And when we go into that, we'll talk about that a little bit more. In addition to that, we are also studying existing conditions in the area, specifically curb utilization, as this is really a question and a study about how we can improve the curb in the area. And what we've really found is that there's a lot of opportunity at play here, but also some key areas that we need to be really considerate of as it relates to our intervention relating to the curb. So in our observations and studies, we identified the post office on the south side of 14th Street, just east of Washington Street, as a critical loading need. We also identified the two MTA bus stops that exist along the north side of West 14th Street, one in front of 401 West 14th Street at 9th Avenue, and the other just west of Washington Street, as being critical infrastructure for the neighborhood. These service the M14D as well as the M11 and M12 buses. We also identified Highline stages at the north of 14th Street, the north side of 14th Street, just at Washington, as a key generator with a lot of truck activity that kind of has an active loading operation. And then we identified a larger level of loading, or a level of loading across the rest of the area, which is pretty kind of at a regular cadence, although at times there can be increased loading due to specific events. And then in addition to that, we also took a look at policy from the New York City Department of Transportation to understand how this curb works and is utilized in the context of the New York City Curb Management Plan. And there we actually found that this street is under-managed, or is not managed as well as it could be, because it's not accommodating all 5 functions that exist in the Curb Management Plan. In the present, right, there's a lot of function for the vehicle storage as well as the circulation and movement. But we're not seeing, in considerations of safety, right? The idea of reducing automobile speeds in the area, opportunities to expand the public realm within the curb lane as something that we can take on here. And then, of course, returning back to our kind of central focus of this project, which is transportation access and making sure that the pedestrian experience moving east, west, north, south through the meatpacking district, in particular along 14th Street, is at a really high level, and a level that we expect and want to accommodate for the neighborhood. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Lydon of Street Plans to really work through and talk you through the design that came out of a lot of this consideration and process, and work you through the what we have to show you today.
Great, thank you, Evan. And I will ask you to continue to advance the slides so that's seamless. Good evening, everybody. Mike Lydon, co-founder and principal at Street Plans. Joining me is Veronica Rivas Plaza, who is the very talented designer who's been working on this project. So all the pretty drawings and work that you see is her good work. She can help answer questions later on. So we're really excited about this project. This really started with listening sessions and then working with the BID's Streetscape Committee to work through a number of concepts and options on how to improve this stretch of 14th Street. And so very quickly, just you'll see the top drawing, there was one option we sketched out. It was really looking at the bike median option, where we have a two-way bikeway down the center of the street that came directly out of the Western Gateway work. And so we want to test fit that for what would be a interim design project, right? So just to set the understanding now that we are looking at using beautiful and high quality materials, but flexible materials, things that would not be permanent in terms of curb, concrete, and hard infrastructure. This is all intended to be infrastructure we can put on top of the existing streetscape and within it. So that being said, we found a number of challenges with the bike median concept, particularly the fact that it's the cobblestone, right? It's not a very comfortable street to bike on yet. That further improving that would require larger budgets and longer timelines than what we're working with currently on this project to improve the street in the near term. So we moved on to scheme B, which was a pedestrian median. So we studied what that would look like. So you could have a pedestrian walkway down the center of the street. We've got a few examples of these in New York City, such as like Allen Street in the Lower East Side, for example. But we looked at precedents from around, the globe, from Paris to Barcelona, to Bogota and other cities that have this kind of infrastructure and street design type. And we found that while it might be beneficial in some ways, it would limit the amount of curbside activation and programming that we could do for pedestrians. And ultimately the space that we could achieve with that walking median would not be as wide as we would like it to be fully functional as a public space where people would linger. So we moved on to what we call the programmed curb extensions. Now, this is the option that we advance into further design, and we'll show you that in just a moment. But the point of this one is to really maximize continuous pedestrian space, both for movement, but also for passive use in terms of seating and other amenity in this new expanded space. We would maintain 2 driving lanes, right? We've got a lot of truck and bus vehicles to accommodate on this corridor, obviously. And we'd also maintain curb operations in terms of loading and freight and pickup and drop off activity. You can kind of see in the drawing all the little cut-ins there with the tan. That's where that activity would take place. So we'll zoom in now and provide a lot more detail. So next slide. So in total, what you're seeing here is some imagery of the streetscape itself. And then in plan view, all that tan area is the space that we found that we could reclaim for pedestrian-focused use. These are sort of our opportunity areas to start to dig into the design. And really what this design shows too is 2 types of pedestrian spaces. The solid tan would just be surface space that would get programmed in a variety of ways. And then the spaces that are striped, and hopefully you can see that on the screen, those are decked areas. So we'd be extending the curb with decking, and that deck would be at the exact same height as the sidewalk itself. And the idea would be to provide these respites in programmed areas that would be very attractive for pedestrian gathering and use. We really had to be careful about how we sited these platforms. There's a lot of utilities, there's a lot of the bus operations to be mindful of, the loading, highline stages, etc. So what you see is largely the footprints of what we know to be feasible given all the constraints on the street today. In total, this comprises over 16,000 square feet of new pedestrian space along these 2 blocks on 14th Street. Next slide, please. So what does the decking look like? Here's just an example from another city. This is Atlanta on Broad Street. And how the system works is basically it comes in 2x2 modules, and it has a pedestal system that can be calibrated to the exact height that you need each deck square to be. So it could be interlocking together and then work flexibly to, remove those 2x2 panels if need be to deal with, any garbage or buildup underneath to help clean the street, or deal with any utility access that might be required, underneath the deck itself. So the deck we're looking to use would be pretty flexible in the fact that it would provide access below the deck when needed without being super disruptive in the sense of having to remove the entirety of the deck system all at once to deal with any issues that might arise. Next slide. So we developed 3 concepts on what those decks might start to look like and the kinds of activities that they would support. On the left is what we call the forest concept. It was really to bring more shade and tree canopy and greenery to the corridor. It would provide for informal social activity, additional plantings, and of course, a variety of different types of seating on the deck itself. The kiosk option is looking to bring in potentially a small structure that could be operated by a vendor that provide, food and beverage right on the street. As Evan mentioned, the north side of the street has struggled from a food and beverage perspective, and we thought this might be one way to further animate the street, create a destination, and service the, nearly 10,000 people who walk this stretch of street every day to and from 9th Avenue over to the High Line, and of course over to the far west side in the Hudson River Park. So there's a lot of activity here. We want to be able to capture that with an amenity that doesn't currently exist. And then finally, the sun deck option is kind of a playful way to recognize that the north side of 14th Street gets a lot of sun. And so in certain times of year, it'd be really nice to have that sun to enjoy. But with umbrellas and other shade structures, might also provide some respite from that hot sun in the middle of the summer. So looking at ways to provide more of a relaxing environment on the street and let people gather. Next. So those are the decks. This is more what the actual surface amenities would start to look like, right? This is the stuff that we could put directly on top of the cobble. These would be barrier elements and planters. We look to do bike parking in certain select areas, certainly add public seating, sanitation infrastructure, so trash corrals, public art, plantings. It really becomes a flexible way to use the street, but would be a bit different in character in use than the deck system, and would also allow for more continuous sort of mobility along the street as well. So provide those slightly different function, and certainly would allow for all the access to the utilities as needed today. Because remember, the decking primarily is not covering any of the existing utility locations. So next slide. So those are 2 amenity zones. As we were developing this work, we also developed a materials palette with the bid. And what we did was we really studied closely the materials, the character from a materials perspective found already in the district. And of course, it's rich with history, rich with character and materiality. We wanted to make sure that even if we're doing temporary or interim activations of the district, in particular with 14th Street, we wanted to look and feel like the district, like it's appropriate from a design perspective. So we developed a series of we called collections. What we're showing you here is just one of those collections with how that palette of amenities and materials would come together to relate to the materiality of this quarter and of course of the district. Next slide. So moving into more geometric design, this is a little bit hard to read, I'm sure, on your screen. We'll zoom in here in just a second, but you can kind of see the decks kind of pop out here. And then if you squint, you can see some of the surface barrier elements that start to define those surface amenity zones, as well as where they bump in to allow for vehicular access for loading and unloading, pickup and drop off activity. Next. So starting on the far west, you can see just there on the left of the screen is 10th Avenue. We would have 2 decks that would fit partially underneath the High Line itself. The idea here is to use the amenity of the High Line to a degree, but also amenitize it further so it doesn't feel as dark and uninviting as it might at certain times of day now. We're also looking at expanding that sidewalk space to be a release valve for the high amount of pedestrian traffic that this gets, particularly on the southern side where you have the stair access to and from the High Line itself, where it can be a real pinch point for pedestrians as they're trying to get on and off the High Line. And of course, there's that activity and people trying to walk east and west on the sidewalk itself. We are looking at a couple of curb extensions that would reduce the crossing distance for pedestrians, make them more visible, and slow those turning vehicles that are moving north on 10th Avenue. And that geometry would accommodate the bus movement as well. We've designed it to accommodate those buses taking the right turn. If you can look at the screen there, you'll see some shapes such as the rectangles and the circles. Those just delineate where those barrier elements might be placed, so that we're using more hard and secure barriers where there would be vehicles kind of nosing in and nosing out of those loading zone areas. And then some lighter barrier elements where that activity does not have to happen. Next. So as we move to the east, from Washington Street over to 9th Avenue, you can see the placement of 2 large decks as well as 2 large delivery zones that would be 115 feet long each. So it would accommodate multiple vehicles that would need access for different operations at those locations. And the decks themselves would be programmed, as I mentioned, in a variety of different ways and not interfere with bus operations, which are moving westbound along this corridor. So really had to think through carefully what the needs are of the street and how we design around them to again maximize that space for pedestrians. And as you'll see in a few minutes, I also wanted to highlight on these decks, we would have ramps to and from the cobblestone street level so that you could move continuously along them. And also that would serve to help folks with strollers, wheelchairs, or hand trucks who are bringing goods off of the trucks, could even bring them up onto the decks via that ramp and then over to the sidewalk to the businesses that they need to access. So we try to think through those elements as well. So all in all, there'd be a bunch of different, sort of programmatic uses of the curb here, from the TNC pickup and drop off to bus boarding to our flex amenity zones, either decked or undecked, that all are going to be incorporated into this design. And you can see these little vignettes. We've got 4 little drawings there. We'll now zoom into each one of those to provide a little bit more character and detail of what we're talking about. So this is looking north, where that bus is in the background. That's the Apple store. So just to orient you what you're looking at. So you're seeing the decked amenity zone on the north side of 14th Street, and then a surface amenity zone that would be on the south side in that location. Bring together some of those amenities such as the greenery, planters, different types of seating, and barrier elements. And in fact, in this drawing too, you can see some public art that might be interactive and sittable. Next. This is all the way to the west. So this is that intersection again with 10th Avenue. You're looking at the High Line. What's the new Rivian dealership store right there behind the north side sidewalk. And you can see how the materiality of this changes as you go from the Belgian block, which really restricts what we can do on the surface, to the asphalt, which is where the crosswalk starts and where you see that the tan area. That's much more in line with what the DOT typically does for their interim curb extensions or pedestrian spaces. So it's a moment in, where these 2 material sets come together and must interact and work cohesively to make the street safer and more accessible. But you can see that deck zone on the north is primarily, a space for relaxing, gathering, and, if need be, getting shelter underneath the High Line, which we would look to make much more appealing. Next. Now you're looking at the south side of 14th Street, and you're looking west at that stair that provides access to the High Line. In the background, you'll see some people standing on one of those decked extensions. So that's one of those exact moments where we want to provide more pedestrian space. And then in the foreground, you have one of those larger decks with just the basic seating amenity, which could wind up being a number of different things. But in the drawing here is just providing some public seating. And then those ramps appear very prominently. So you could see how you could move on the sidewalk east and west, or you could move along the street itself. And those ramps would give you access up and down to the sidewalk and the deck itself. Next. This third drawing fourth drawing is looking again towards the west, and this is on the east side of Washington Street. So you're much further east here, and you're looking at how that public art and the deck system and the more relaxed lounge seating might be incorporated onto that deck system, and the inclusion of bike parking as one of the amenities that might be appropriate in certain locations along the corridor of 14th Street. So I think with that, we will open it up to questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. Questions from the committee? Alan?
Thank you, very interesting, very nice, very nice presentation. I was just wondering, on the presentation that you did back in May 22, I think it was, there was some reference to reconfiguring the entrance to 10th Avenue off of West Street. I believe it was that, it might have been a different presentation.
Yeah.
Is that,
No, it's
is that part of this, or is that something that's been pushed out to another time?
Right. No, so in our Western Gateway plan, we identify 6 study areas or key focus areas for this work. What you're referencing, the 10th Avenue kind of intersection of West Street, is a separate focus area that we are also continuing to pursue improvements to. The end of the day, the capital construction costs and the geometric changes that need to happen at that intersection are much larger than kind of the interim pedestrian improvements that we're able to provide here in this area. And so this is a project that we're able to advance at a faster pace and a quicker speed than some of those other improvements and other changes that need more coordination with city agencies as well as state agencies to accomplish.
Thank you, great presentation, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You mentioned about the cobblestones for the cyclists. I think in your area, but I know down by Canal, between Canal and Light Street, on the cobblestones, there's a small strip for cyclists. So I think you also have one in your bid, right outside your bid. That might be a viable alternative, because you said it was expensive. The other thing I was going to ask about is, especially since you said there's vacant stores and stuff like that, would you be able to provide a recharging station for an electric bike, especially for deliveristas, and maybe a public restroom or something for them? I know a lot of them probably don't congregate there, but it might be a nice place for them to, recharge their batteries, phones, or whatever. It seems like, you could fit it into your plans.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for those comments. We definitely recognize those 2 issues, public restrooms and support for deliveristas and delivery workers, to be critical issues in the area. Similar to the previous question, what we're able to accomplish as the business improvement district on our own, kind of advancing a temporary streetscape improvement versus what can happen as it relates to plumbing and the infrastructure that needs for a public restroom, is something that we just can't accomplish ourselves, but we're happy to continue to work with CB4 to promote and push the city to be better about these issues, and to work with the city of New York to find solutions to those issues within the meatpacking district.
And then you're right with the granite strip for cycling. Yeah, that is something that I think longer term might be appropriate on 14th Street, but that won't get installed anytime in the near future. So we're trying to maximize our opportunity here on the pedestrian side and operations side and calming the overall street. But that level of intervention would be a next phase of work.
So that's so difficult. I mean, why can't it would be nice to be included in this phase, because that makes the riding so much more viable. I mean, it's a radical. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the end of the day, the bid is not able to modify the street itself, right? Everything we're doing is on top of the roadway. And that's just, again, one of those things that we're incapable as an organization to take on. Really, right, the street itself, the cobble, same as asphalt, is really the DOT's domain. And so we'd be happy to work and talk to the DOT about that type of improvement. But from our end, we're unable to make that change ourselves.
I just wanted to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
She just called.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Kobe.
No, I was going to say that in terms of public restrooms, we identify there's nearby facilities like in Gainsborough Beach. They just opened a facility for public bathrooms, the same in Pier 57, and we have Chelsea Market as well. So we can, we can have those options in the area.
Okay, yeah, and it's kind of funny, the guy showing a rendering with a bicycle on the cobblestones here in light of the fact that you're not supporting bicycles with this. I don't know if I'm misunderstanding something. You're talking about adding pedestrian space, but you're really just adding parks on top of the street. And are you expanding the sidewalk anywhere that actually helps with pedestrian flow?
So,
Go ahead,
we
Evan.
think these areas are going to support pedestrian flow because the sidewalk is, it's crowded, and so there's ample additional space for that. But it's also a project to amenitize the public realm and to provide additional recreational space as well as resource space as it relates to bike parking or trash management within the curb lane itself, which is, we've identified as an opportunity to take advantage of the wide width of the roadway here in this location and some of the other needs that the city has identified for utilization of the curb besides just vehicle storage.
Okay, because I'm gonna disagree with you on that because you just said something that's contradictory. You said you're not expanding the sidewalk width, but you're adding destinations, which could actually add pedestrian load on the sidewalk, so you could be adding to congestion. So either you're adding more pedestrian space for flow, or you're not. But those, yeah, I mean, those look like very nice places to go sit. Don't get me wrong, I think those would be enjoyable additions to but if the goal is to increase, to improve pedestrian flow, and you're talking about how the street's too wide, well, the obvious solution there is just make the sidewalk wider and take it away from the street. So that was my very first observation from the get-go. The other thing, and I know David was talking about the bicycles. I know this is not something that's in your jurisdiction per se. It would take a lot of coordinating with DOT, but they're often coming to us with how do we get people across town on bicycles more efficiently. Finding a river to river route is actually challenging. It seems like the city spends an awful lot of time trying to find alternatives to vehicles on 14th Street when they were planning the whole L train shutdown. And I think a lot of the findings were increased bicycle traffic and bicycle transit amenities. And I hear that there's a cobblestone issue here. That, I know that there's a lot of affection for the cobblestones, and there's, I'm sure there's some zoning or legislation or something that requires those to be there, but they're not the most accessible materials. The older I get, the more afraid I get of slipping on them. They're not great for my ankles and my knees. So paving over a cobblestone doesn't bother me too much. So we're also looking at ways to create two-way bike lanes. So, something down the middle of the street would be revolutionary. I think we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Given that we're only on the north side of the street in our district, so I want to talk about the south side anyway. I would look at the north side of that street where I think you have some fewer of the delivery spots as a potential area to engage with DOT is your gateway to a crosstown bike lane before we start laying these out. I mean, I guess it's great that they're movable, so if we can just slide them to make way for a bike lane later on, that'd be great. But I would encourage you to look at how this is a gateway between the Hudson River Park, right underneath the High Line, and welcoming people into our district and our neighboring district, recognizing that a lot of people are bicycling. They're taking the city bikes. There are a lot of city bike stations around there. They can hop off the bike and go shop it in the Gansevoort district, which should be good for everybody. At least those that can afford to window shop. I can't, but that would be my comment here.
Thank you very much for those comments. They're heard. As a cyclist myself, I agree. Some of these issues as it relates to cobble and use of the bike is certainly a challenge. And to let you know, we're certainly working with the partners of ours up and down 14th Street east to west to think about a holistic change to the street. Again, as Mike has mentioned, this is not something that we're able to accomplish in the immediate or interim term, which is why we kind of bring you this kind of tactical approach to public space improvement. But as conversations continue with our partners from DOT to other bids along 14th Street, these are things that we're including in our discussions about a larger improvement that could happen in this area.
Great, thank you. Charlie.
Thank you both for the presentation. I think it's really beautiful. I think it looks great. As a short-term, let's get this done quickly. Would love to see it this summer, and all the input that we've all had about long-term things can come longer term. I understand that you guys are not DOT, and that what you can accomplish is putting this extra additional seating and amenities and greenery out in the short term, and that sounds great. But yeah, wanted to echo what some other committee members have said about bike access. I did get kind of excited when I saw that two-way lane going down the middle of 14th Street. I think that's a big step and a big swing, and that got me excited. I know there are challenges with it. But just to talk about access, in our bid, the only way crosstown access to get to the Greenway, which is the busiest bike lane in North America, is 29th Street and 55th Street. And 38th Street, I think you have to go around the Javits Center a little bit, maybe not direct, but it's a connection. But south of 29th Street, you have to go, I think, to Battery Park to have access to the Greenway in a protected bike lane. 15th Street has sheriffs, which is, embarrassing that we still have sheriffs. So I would say maybe either in our letter or just encourage you guys to, 14th Street might not be the answer. 14th Street is a busway from 3rd Avenue to 9th Avenue, right on the border of this. But it is a very pleasant place to cycle generally too, and a lot of cyclists do use it. 13th Street is a great protected lane, but it ends prior to your bid. So it may be that we call on DOT to make a nice quality protected bike lane on 15th Street, which is, heading west. But then you have to, factor heading east as well. So anyway, I just want to point out there's a real lack of connectivity with the Greenway. 14th is strange, and you have to solve the 10th Avenue problem and the traffic island and the fact that you have to cross multiple crosswalks to get over to the little island. So it's not an ideal place for a cyclist just to be thrown into right now, but as part of that other focus area, I think there could be a comprehensive solution here. I only want to bring up this one other topic because it was in the 2022 letter. The spot on 9th Avenue between 14th Street and 15th Street, the 9th Avenue protected bike lane, which in our district starts at 59th Street and goes all the way down to 14th Street. It's perfect up until 15th, where it doesn't exist between 15th and 14th. So I know that's perhaps another area of focus, but I want that to be on your radar, that I'd love to see that be a protected lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for those comments. On that update, there was construction at that corner of 14th and 9th for the past 2 years. We're really excited and happy to see that that's wrapping up. And so with that construction being done, I think there is a strong opportunity to work with the city to help coordinate a better improvement at that bike lane. I think it is a concerning location because there is almost that blind left-hand turn as you change the geometry from 9th Avenue to Hudson Street, as well as a large volume of trucks and buses making the left-hand turn to 14th Street. So I would agree, and I'm happy to consider and work with CB4 as well as the DOT to figure out what a solution could be there.
Great. Christine?
So yeah, it looks very good. Following on 14th Street, narrowing this intersection, there's too much space there. Would be really nice. So I don't know whether you want to use your system, your portable system and monitoring system to try to narrow this intersection and make it smaller. But bigger question is, you are removing a lot of parking spots, which is fine with us, but how are you going to prevent people from parking in the bus stop? You need to think about a treatment there, because I presume that people are not going to find parking and they're going to find go in the parking. So I don't know whether there is a paint you can use to show people where is the bus stop, or protection, but I really believe that you need to manage that as a mitigation.
Well, go ahead, if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I think we can certainly look into that.
Yeah. Are cars still an issue on, I mean, not to, but because
But you are going to remove so many parking spots, and be sure that people come around and they.
yeah, but aren't they not allowed to go on
No
14?
No problem.
There is no parking. I thought they're not allowed to, there's no cars, pedestrian cars on
Truck.
14, right? Do you mean truck parking?
Deliveries.
Either,
Maybe if there's
because
certain-
everybody does illegal stuff.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the illegal stuff.
Yeah.
You're all bike rider?
Anyone else? Do you have any,
No, that-
comments, questions?
Well, is Colleen is she on? Maybe she could answer about the,
Colleen, are you with us?
Answering what?
Yes, I'm here. What's the question?
Would a two-way bike strip on the cobblestone, like that you can lay down, would that be something that DOT would be able to look at and maybe be amenable to, putting down, I mean, it's a really interesting idea, putting down a bike lane right in the middle of 14th Street. Is that something that DOT could start looking at and maybe assist the bid with?
Yeah, I mean, we're working very closely with the bid. We've seen the proposal. I mean, it's something that the bid can raise with our team. And, you know, the community board strongly wants to do this. Why not? We can look at it.
Okay, great. Thank you. I see at least one member of the public with their hand raised, Jonathan. Janine, if you want to move Jonathan over, and if anyone else from the public has a question or wants to speak on this, raise your hand, and we will move you over.
Interesting. Is Janine moving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonathan's over.
Oh,
Here.
Jonathan, you with us? Jonathan?
Unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Jonathan Wiseman. I'm a local resident. I just had a quick question, a little bit also involving a little bit DOT. I'm just trying to figure out, I know it's about bringing more business to the meatpacking district and really trying to develop 14th Street. I'm just trying to see now how, with the bid, are they just talking to DOT? Because it seems like any southbound eastern traffic or vehicles that are moving that way will no longer have access to go down 14th Street. So I don't know if that's something that was considered, because now 15th Street is going to be more crowded with more vehicles. And I also feel like people who are going to come around to 14th Street to get to Washington, it's going to increase a little bit more the flow of traffic and will actually be a little bit more dangerous at 10th Street. And also, how would delivery trucks get access to that area? I don't know if that's a question for DOT and the bid, if they've worked together to analyze that. So I'm just trying to figure that out. I don't know if that made sense.
So,
Yeah, just effects on traffic, I guess, is the, bigger question
let's
here.
ask Ivan to
Yeah.
answer.
Say that.
We're not precluding any access to 14th Street from the north.
Well, from the north, you can't get, like, any kind of traffic can't get access as soon as because 7th Avenue to 8th Avenue, no private vehicles are allowed on that street at all going eastbound, nor any delivery trucks are allowed to go eastbound. So at that point, it's kind of being shut down. So you're increasing more traffic on 15th Street with this change.
We're not shutting down any access to 14th Street. We're allowing right turns as they exist today onto 14th from 9th. And there would be
You can't turn from 14th on 9th going eastbound. You're not allowed to.
So another thing to note there is actually at a uniqueness that I don't really know why. I think maybe members of CB4 might in this situation is the truck route for westbound access from, from 9th Avenue or from 8th Avenue to the West Side Highway is actually on 15th Street at that location. So the kind of designated route is there for whatever that is the reason or why that is to be the case. So, that is the way that the city has recommended that larger vehicles travel westbound from the center of Manhattan, from 5th Avenue, 7th Avenue to access the West Side Highway. And to the comment about, concerns about vehicular safety and pedestrian safety, one thing that we've really observed in the Meatpacking District is the high rate of speed due to the large width of 14th Street is a really unsafe opportunity. We have a lot of pedestrians who are, in this area now. Some people might want to, run across the street to look at another shop or to go over to the High Line. They might not be used to the area because there's a lot of tourists and visitors in the district. And so the opportunity to reduce the roadway widths and really slow down traffic to a safe speed. Again, a reminder, right? New York City has a 25 mile an hour maximum speed limit. Really something that we want to encourage and make sure is happening, especially to match the scale and size of, of a commercial district, of a busy, vibrant retail neighborhood.
No, Evan, I totally agree. And I know the speed limits. I agree with you. I think reducing the speed is the key. But I think, again, what I'm trying to say is that you're not anymore giving access to anybody getting access to 14th Street and Washington Street, or giving access. And it's very hard to get to this neighborhood, as you know. The only access is really the M14 bus, the train stops at 8th Avenue, and then you have to walk. So all I'm saying is that you're going to increase a lot more traffic on 15th Street, and you're also going to limit any kind of access for any kind of vehicles at all going down from 14th Street past 8th Avenue, if you're especially coming from downtown, because nobody's allowed at that point to turn onto 14th Street at 7th. Right now, you can't turn at 14th and 9th.
Let me, you already said that, so let me try to.
Okay. Okay, sorry, just repeating that. I'm in agreement again.
The same thing, but let me finish. Let me say that.
Sorry.
I think there is no, I have not heard of any removal of access for anything. The only thing we have heard is that there is a wider sidewalk. So nothing else from a vehicular standpoint is removed by this plan. And so you should, when it's streamed, you can go online and look at it and verify that. There is no change there.
Well, the change is, sorry, okay, if I may reply, is that okay? Or
yes.
No, listen, I'm just trying to explain to you that right now that the slip is actually between 14th and 15th is permanently closed, and that's okay, right?
We know that,
right? We know that. So now how does someone get access now to 14th at the Gucci store if you're driving a car and you're coming downtown? How do you get access to that?
You don't, you go to 14.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So you're going to increase traffic down.
But that's not this project. That's the slip. So we're not discussing the closing of the slip thing.
No, I understand. What I'm asking you is what's going to happen with all that traffic that's going to go now eastbound, that's coming down 15th Street, coming around the West Side Highway, because you've increased. All I'm asking is maybe the DOT can take a look at what the increase of flow of traffic and the increase to pedestrian risk, because you're putting more traffic coming down.
Sir, we heard you.
Okay.
So now I'm responding, and I think that's
fair enough.
We try to move on.
Fair
but
enough.
That discussion you want to have is about the slip and the closing of the slip.
No,
it's not about.
No, it's the question of how, like I said.
No, I mean, you have already asked your question.
Okay, sorry.
So I heard your question, and I'm telling you, this is not necessarily the right context to ask that question. And we should ask that question to DOT, but not during this letter.
Okay, I thought it would be, no, I'm not talking about the slip again. That's fine.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So, are any other comments or questions from this committee? Otherwise, it seems to me that we would be writing a letter that is just generally in favor of this proposal, other than a few things that we brought up this evening, including long-term, bike lane idea, like focusing in on that option A or whatever they called it, and trying to see if that would be a long-term, something that they could do long-term, how to prevent private vehicles from parking in bus stops, and just generally, as they're looking at this, incorporate, always thinking about how to incorporate where, we can point people to public restrooms or bring public restrooms in and, or.
His point about widening the walk lane.
Widening the walk.
Yeah, they're putting platforms.
Right, I got it.
But put in flat strip on cobblestone, that's.
Yeah.
Because what you're seeing is you see that you have to step up on the platforms.
Although, I will say, aren't the sidewalks there already pretty, like, there's some of the widest sidewalks we have.
But they have a lot of people, that's always
Yeah,
like
that's always
the
the thing,
balance,
yeah.
right?
They're reporting to us that there's
Right.
congestion on the sidewalk,
Oh,
that's a reason to do this, if it's not true, that
Yeah,
there is
I mean-
congestion on the sidewalk, then that's.
I think you got it.
All right, well, that being sort of the gist of the letter, to motion,
Motion? Okay,
and all those in favor?
yes.
Anyone opposed? Or present not eligible? Great. Thank you so much, Evan, Mike, Veronica. Thank you for being here. Jonathan, thank you for your comments. Really, really appreciate the presentation, guys. Obviously, a lot of work has gone into this, and the detail, the drawings are very thorough, so it's much appreciated. We all can go online and still look at them if we want to examine them. We'll make sure that they're up. So thank you very much. Have a good
Great,
evening
thank
to
you
guys.
all. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to our second item, which is, we received word that there is a city bike station that was potentially interfering with the bike lane on 8th Avenue and 31st Street. It's escaping me who has, brought that to our attention, but I'm
Yeah,
hoping, Candace, there we go. Hi, Candace. So hopefully Candace will speak on this, and we can discuss it.
Should bring her over.
Yeah, Janine, do you mind bringing Candace over?
Did you hear us, Janine?
Janine, do you mind bringing Candace over to the main?
Yeah, she's doing.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Give me one moment.
Thanks.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Candace.
I don't know what's going on in the video. Hi. Yeah, I live on 30th Street and I'm a frequent user of 31st bike lane or the city bike over there. And I've noticed that when pulling out the bike, even at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's very hazardous. Like it goes right into the bike lane. And before City Bike had it, the bikes would go opposite, like behind, into the pedestrian plaza. It's a larger walk space in front of the post office over there. They already have a large sidewalk. They have a large pedestrian walkway space. And they, like I said, City Bike used to have it where it would pull into that space to bike out, pull out your bike and then go. And but now they turned it back around, and like I said, you pull it straight. It's as soon as you pull out the bike, it's hitting the bike lane. Like there's no kind of lines or anything like that. And I will say the pedestrian parkway or the walkway has turned into pretty much where people just go ahead and ride their bikes down that way anyway. There's no flower bed, anything stopping them. That's, it's just an open space. And I know the taxis will park there now because there's nothing stopping them from actually doing it. And I will stand there and be like, go ahead and hit me. Like it's a walkway. Like you're not even on the sidewalk, guys, for the taxis. It's a problem area and I'm hoping you guys can help me with it.
Yeah. So Candace, just so I understand, so you are suggesting if we actually move the, if we asked for the city bike rack to be put back to where it was before, which sounded like it was on this pedestrian walkway, that also would have the double effect of stopping the taxis from driving down that walkway. Is that?
Yes, I mean, I know that they had it at one point. It seemed like it worked because nobody was even using that area. Maybe if they can just kind of, I don't know, a city bike lane just so they know where to go. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so over in this area, you have a walkway that's halfway down the block as well. And if there's any kind, like if you block it from there to there, just to pull the bikes in and out. There's also, the bikes are so tight. I've noticed like when people get off the trains, they can't even cross, like the taxi will drop them off in the bike lane, right in front of the bike lane. And then they have to walk up the bike lane because there's no spacing between the city bikes. So once you like park it, you have to force yourself to either walk north or south in the bike lane because you can't get through because, if the bikes are all together, you can't stop through the bikes.
Sorry, but now that I'm seeing the photo, thank you, Charlie, sorry, but I thought the issue was that when you literally pull out the bike, you pull it out into the bike.
Bike lane, this is reverse.
This is reverse.
That's an old photo.
This is an old picture. This is what it used to be like.
That's helpful to understand. Okay, so
Sorry.
they flipped it. It's the opposite now, so they turned
Yes.
around the bike.
It
That
used to
I
be
understand.
that way.
Oh, why
And
did
then
they
they
do that?
switched it.
Why?
That's not the way they do it. Otherwise, and because everybody from the bike share was going into the pedestrian space.
Yeah, if I can speak to it.
Yeah, let's have some comments, questions,
Yeah.
Charlie.
I think the way it is in this picture from 2022 is facing the other way, and Christine's right, and Candace is bringing up this point too, that people use the expanded sidewalk as a bike lane, and that's partly because if you turn around, the bike lane is against the curb south of 31st Street, and the markings are not really clear that you need to come out here, so a lot of people will just plug the curb. And I think having a city bike rack, the way it used to be, encourage that, because that's where you're gonna stay on your bike and bike that lots of extra bit to park your bike. But I think the solution is just to provide a little bit more buffer, and I think this can be moved back a block, and I did a little bit of a neighborhood survey. And this problem, like, if you look at the more traditional city bike racks, like 45th Street and 9th Avenue, where there's not an expanded sidewalk, there's the city bike racks, the bikes are facing the bike lane, but there's like a 3-foot buffer there, so there's no conflict. And it's only where we have the expanded sidewalks or the double wide bike lanes. So on 8th Avenue here at 31st, also 8th, 37th, 38th has this problem, and 8th between 49th and 50th has this problem. Also 9th between 17th and 18th, and that's because they expanded the bike lane. So I think we could maybe ask DOT in general, like, let's have some sort of standard where it's more than, it's maybe 10 inches now. I mean, really, as soon as the bike comes out of the dock, it kind of immediately rolls.
It should be 2 feet or 3 feet. I mean, if they move the bike rack 1 feet or 2 feet inside the pedestrian side, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. The only thing I would say precedent wise is that this condition does exist. Every city bike rack that's just in the roadbed that has cars coming behind it.
Right.
Also doesn't have a buffer.
Yes,
So,
yes.
it is, there, I guess a regular road is wider and the cars aren't right up against the edge like the bikes are.
Right. Yeah, because when the bikes are going up, they are going very close.
Very close.
Right.
Yeah, if you can just pan a little bit to the left. Kelly, you're still on?
Yes.
Another thing I'm gonna put out here that will also,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think,
here.
help
I'm
people
listening.
Getting in that pedestrian area and lots of, I've asked this so many times, so I'm gonna actually get on my knees. Kelly, I'm on my knees, please, have a bake sale or something, raise some money to get a study. That 10 area is a loading, it blocks the intersection. If you put some pieces of
Blocks.
big rocks or anything to protect.
But we did ask, we already sent a letter.
I'm on my
Put
knees
it
now.
again in this letter too. Put it
Please
again.
block that from car access, because if you do that, people might not even bike in that tan area also. So if you don't have, if you can't flip the city bikes and you have to still pull them onto that tan pedestrian area, they're less likely to hop on the bike and bike into a rock. So just that, and study it, whatever it takes to get the,
Yes.
but.
Yes.
So,
Candace is.
no, yeah, go ahead, Candace.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if you do that, the Bolt buses won't be able to turn.
No, they will.
There's room for the buses, and the
Yes.
buses are, and maybe then the buses will go where we were asking them to go anywhere farther down the
No,
block.
but they can't,
But,
they
yeah.
can.
But this should be, yeah, it's connected. In fact, they would do it probably.
Plenty of space.
Yeah, it's not Bolt, it's it's actually.
Or the Flex
Greyhound.
bus, sorry, Flex bus.
Whatever, I think they're, are they Coach or Greyhound, one of those two actually, but.
Those buses create a horrible traffic.
All right, so let's.
But on this,
Right.
so, I mean, do people think that rather than flipping it back to how it was, actual, and like making this a general statement for all the city bike racks that are sort of in this situation, like, to the extent that you could not have the city bike directly on the bike lane, move it a couple feet in
Yes.
to this pedestrian area,
Is it-
so that it still leaves room for pedestrians to walk on one side, but also gives the people pulling the bikes out a little more room so they're not pulling it out right into the bike lane, causing a dangerous situation for both themselves and the bikers.
I'm not sure there's enough room, honestly, because you almost need like a little more than a bike length to be able to get a bike out, pivoted, I mean.
But even
Do you
2
think
feet.
the last
it
bike
would-
out, I think you really would need enough to get it
Even
out
two
the jump.
feet will give you the.
Yeah,
You
but
can't totally get it, you have to look eventually.
Yeah.
But it's, I've done it before where you do your fob or your app and you take the bike out without looking, you're like putting your backpack on, you're not looking. And then,
Yeah.
and someone yells at you because you almost hit them. And I've been on both sides of that, so
Alright,
eventually you're gonna have to. To
I think it's a decent solution and we'll see how it works and, if it's, we need to come back in, say come back, so let's hopefully and it seems easy enough if they can do it. So, do we have a motion, or sorry, is there anyone else from the public who wants to speak on this pressing topic? Great, alright.
Did you also want to include anything about the rocks?
Yeah, sorry, I did, it will be in the rock thing will also be. in
As
the letter.
previously.
As previously asked for, and obviously, we're not trying to interfere with any of the buses turning there, but we think it's possible to do both. And we desperately want this to not be a loading zone blocking both pedestrian and biker traffic.
I don't think they'd be even allowed to put the neck down, like, they have to do a study probably before they.
Yeah,
make
yeah,
the change,
yeah.
but
The neck down is.
They would, they do a study
Right.
probably to
Yeah.
verify the bus could work around it.
Do we have a motion?
Okay.
Do we have one motion, second?
Okay,
All those in favor of said letter?
all right.
Opposed?
Moving on.
Oh, moving on, thank you, Candace.
Thank you, guys, thank you.
Bye.
Steps could just move on to the area.
All right, we are moving on. Item number 3. Ladies and gentlemen, you may know him from places such as the Transportation Committee, and also we have Charlie Todd requesting a city bike rack on 9th Avenue between 50 and 59.
Yeah, and so this issue came to me because of something I saw, Janine, if we could bring Jason Ginsburg over. So a resident spoke out on a neighborhood Facebook group about an issue with the Fresh Direct truck that idles in this particular spot. It happens to be a spot that is a real hole in the city bike network. So Jason, if you want to describe the issue that you've been having with the Fresh Direct truck, and I have some pictures of that truck, and we can sort of couple that with the city bike as a possible solution.
Yeah, I'm right here. Hi, everybody. You can hear me. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Charlie, for the introduction. Yeah, so I live on 9th Avenue between 58th and 59th Street. And about sometime last summer, the area got sort of rezoned, I guess, into parking spaces along 9th Avenue. I'm on the east side, and there are now parking spaces for any kind of vehicle. There's actually a sign up now for commercial vehicles, supposed to be 2-hour metered parking. And last summer, this happened. Fresh Direct has taken over those spots. This is looking uptown 9th Avenue. So the east side is on the right. That's actually my building. I'm actually there above Bright Horizons with a green awning. That's a daycare center and a school, which I am positive hears these trucks. What I've been told, I've reached out to Fresh Direct in various ways, actually spoken to a transportation manager by phone about 6 months ago. Not very fruitful conversations. Mostly he spoke and I listened. He didn't really want to hear my point of view. Apparently it isn't the engines idling, it's actually the refrigeration units, because the trucks are climate controlled, they're delivering groceries. So I guess they are able to get around the various rules about idling. There are pollution regulations, there's sound, there's noise, there's certainly regulations about idling by a school, which Bright Horizons qualifies as. So also, as you can see here, occasionally there's a second truck, which is outside the parking lanes and blocks traffic. It blocks the left lane, which is a turn lane onto 58th Street. So I've been in touch with Fresh Direct every possible way, by phone, by either by online chat, by email, to try to find a solution, because really the issue is if the truck's going to be there, the engine or the reefer unit or both will make noise. We had a pretty good run this winter where the trucks apparently didn't need to run the unit. I guess it was so cold. We had some very nice days where there were hardly any noise at all. I'm here a lot. I work from home, so I can track these. I have my own photos like Charlie does there of what's happening there. What's in front of you, by the way, are the delivery bicycle vehicles for all the other kind of deliveries, from Amazon, Fresh Direct, and others. Those are always there. That may be part of, I guess they might be going too if the bike, City Bike bikes come in, they might disappear as well. That's pretty much all I have to say on the matter. I can answer questions if you want to go further.
I think we would like to hear the proposed solution,
Yeah,
Charlie.
so thank you, Jason. And again, I just reached out to Jason because I saw you had a thread on a neighborhood Facebook group, and it seemed like a lot of people were upset about this. And Fresh Direct has a long history of parking here. Prior to this current configuration, Fresh Direct was parking in the crosswalk. So for a long time, you'll recall that we had these construction sheds because of the water main project. And Fresh Direct, they would just park right here. There was a little bit of space in between the construction sidewalk chain link enclosures. And Fresh Direct would just block the bike lane and block the crosswalk entirely right here. So they've been disrespectful to the neighborhood for a long time. And they don't pay any real estate tax, and they use our streets as their storefront, which is a whole other topic of conversation. But I wanted to show this image of these, the fact that I think for maybe 5 years, possibly longer, we did not have any parking on this side of the street. So in case there's any concern about, well, what would happen if we put a city bike rack and got rid of 2 parking spaces? The answer is we did it for 5 years and seemed like everybody survived. So I want to show one other thing in my multimedia presentation here, which is the current state of our city bike network in Northern Hell's Kitchen at the top of our district. So there's a pretty big hole in the city bike network. And it happens to be exactly where Jason is having this problem with the Fresh Direct truck refrigerating and idling and making noise and pollution for Jason and his neighbors and the daycare. And here it is in the City Bike app. So where that red star is where this issue is, and where I think asking DOT for a city bike rack would perhaps kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because it is a real hole in the network. You have to go all the way up to Lincoln Center to the north, or down to 54th Street to the south. And as you can see, there currently are no bikes at 54th Street when I took this screenshot. So it's a real hole in the network. And I think that where the Whole Foods delivery bikes park is really not where I'm talking about. By the way, Fresh Direct also uses the sidewalk as the distribution center. Just wanted to point that out. This is the city bike rack on 9th Avenue and 45th Street that I referenced earlier. The bikes face the bike lane, but there is that nice buffer zone here. But this is an example of what a bike rack looks like on 9th Avenue, just 15 blocks to the south. And so right here where the truck is parked would be where I would recommend having a rack. I think there is no parking here.
There is
because of the fire hydrant. Yeah, there's a fire hydrant there, and so there's no parking. But Whole Foods has their cargo bikes and trailers parked there regularly, which I suppose is fine.
What is the regulation right now on this guy?
The regulation where Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
We need to, there is a map for that.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, can we zoom in on
There's
this?
a map. on
I have a
the-
photo of that, Charles. I've seen it before. Yeah, it's commercial vehicles,
Oh,
metered
oh,
parking,
good.
2 hours up to 7 p.m. The vehicles arrive at 3 p.m. They're there for 4 hours before 7 p.m. in violation of that sign that went up for them, as far as I can tell, because it's commercial vehicles only.
Yeah,
Right.
so, you know, I don't know that it would take up, I don't know if the city bike rack necessarily has to take up, the entirety of, this commercial parking. Perhaps, you know,
No, it does.
okay, I mean, perhaps it does, I mean, it's fine, maybe it does, but I just, I don't know how long it would need to be. But, it certainly, it would take up enough where a giant truck wouldn't be able to fit, maybe a plumber could fit, I don't know. But,
Or it's a new standard.
excuse me. But, well, one other thing I wanted to point out that Jason didn't mention is that, from my emails with Jason, it's my understanding that he's talked to Gail Brewer about this, he's talked to Eric Bacher about this, he's talked to Jesse Bodine about this, he's talked to Fresh Direct about this, he's really done all the right things and tried to get Fresh Direct to move. And I think we might have to put something in the way of Fresh Direct, because if Gail Brewer can't get in the way, then.
Well, it's clearly we have a hole in the network.
Exactly. So that's all I got.
It's in the interim, I'm all for the city bikes. Why can't Boxer or Jesse get a commercial NYPD tow truck to tow the truck?
Why'd you ask him?
No, I'm just
Well, it's
asking in
I mean, it's
general.
commercial parking, and we have this,
Commercial
we
parking.
have this agreement with, companies like this that they don't contest their fines and they pay their fines, and their cost of doing business is just getting tickets.
Their tow is a very different.
Okay,
So,
No, they have the equipment.
But that's probably part of the agreement.
But they don't.
tow them. Unless it's like there's a fire and there's another fire.
No, there's not, I don't know of any such agreement, I think we should try for Boxer, and what I'm saying, I know for Boxer and Brewer to have them tow commercial. I mean, you have the pictures, you have the photographs.
I agree, David, based on the fact that Jason has already met with all those elected officials and nothing's happened,
our letter writing might just do the trick, but.
No, the city bike thing's a great idea, I'm all for them, they're saying until that occurs.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
You're making suggestions.
yeah, understood.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, but so I did not realize that this was technically designated as a commercial loading zone. And so, I have no problem with any of this, other than thinking there must be a reason that this was designated as a commercial zone as opposed to other areas.
I think all of Ninth Avenue is probably.
All of
commercial.
Ninth
That's just commercial zone to an house. And I'm only asking that because let's say we solve this
Yes.
problem with
Then we'll have
this,
another.
where are we
First
causing,
direct is
where are we
going to go
causing, yeah,
Yeah.
so do you know where that is, like, what new problem are we creating by doing this?
It's a fair point,
Yeah.
that eventually they need to be, eventually our elected officials need to look at the fact that a grocery store shouldn't operate out of a refrigerated truck on Ninth Avenue. Right, we should get a bigger dose of.
Okay.
If I may, I sort of heard this in the question. One reason I believe the two council members I've been in touch with as the district changed, that's why I've talked to both council members, the Fresh Truck is being acquired by Getter. And that has, according to both these council members and representatives, and I think, and Jesse, that's causing some confusion of who is in charge. Even though obviously someone's in charge, and I doubt Fresh Direct has fired everybody in transportation or logistics all of a sudden, but that's the excuse I keep getting back. And not that they have just said no, but gosh, it's hard to find the right person. We're trying to find who to contact about this. And so that's at least what Fresh Direct is saying. I'm sure they're stalling, and not the council members. It's not their fault. If that helps, the data point there.
Before we take a vote on this, I see at least one hand from the public. Jonathan, you're still with us. If there's anyone else from the public who wants to speak, now's your chance. But Jonathan, go ahead.
Alexander Hayes.
Oh,
Yeah, hi, sorry about that. Just a quick, can you hear me again? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, quick question. I mean, I think it's a great idea to put the bike rack there. The question is, I just had devil's advocate. Wouldn't we be pushing the problem to someone else to deal with? Eventually, will the trucks then park somewhere else and be someone else's problem?
Yeah, Jonathan, I just asked that question, and the answer is yes. But
I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about
That's
that.
okay. That's okay. The answer is it's likely, but we don't know what that would look like, and maybe it would be somewhere. Hopefully,
Not in front of a daycare.
not in front of a daycare, not so intrusive,
Within-
and also it happens to be a gap in the city bike network as it is. So
Yeah, the gap I
or-
think should be filled for sure. And then just a quick question to the gentleman who has the issue across the street opposite where the trucks get parked. Is there parking there available for them or no? They don't park.
Across good question. Across the street is Fresh Direct. I'm sorry, across the street is Morton Williams and CVS. So they have their share of trucks that simply just come, load, and leave. They don't have. And as someone, as a resident has been here since 2019,
Right.
they don't keep anything running. They're just unloading, I guess, dry goods, or they don't need to be refrigerated. The cold
Okay.
chain can last from the truck to the store because it's right there. These are going all over the place. Fresh Direct is delivering. I don't know what this depot covers, but only Fresh Direct idles for 4 hours at a time, 5, 6 hours.
I know, it's horrible. Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's a real irony that this Fresh Direct parks in front of the grocery store. If I was the Morton Williams owner who was paying rent and
Yeah,
real estate.
yeah.
Tax, sales,
Great, thank you very much. Good question, Jonathan. All right, with that, I don't think are there any more comments, questions from the committee? We got one.
Yeah, is there anything we can do with Fresh Direct? Because this is the second time we've heard that they're a nuisance on the cannabis task force. West 25th Street came in, they talked about the very similar situation with Fresh Direct. Is there anything we can do? Maybe aside from this or something separate?
It's a great question, like for a future meeting where we, I would love to do that, yeah.
For years, the community board and the elected have been fighting Fresh Direct. And the big thing at the beginning was idling, right? So now the big win was they are not idling anymore. They are putting their refrigeration secondary. And that was the big win.
So, but it's shoot for a new. We could, certainly something to put on the, we should talk about it, because certainly something to put on the agenda for a future meeting. All right, but on this particular letter, do we have a motion?
I make the motion.
Great, second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
I say toe the bastard.
And toe the bastard. All right, thank you very much. Jason, thank you so much for being here. Carly, thank you for
Yes.
shepherding.
Yes.
Yes, toe the bastard.
Toe the bastard.
All right, thank you again, Jason, and thank you, Charlie, for bringing this to us. Okay, moving on, item number 4. Oh, boy. So, I don't know, if people have had a chance to review first of all, I should say what this is. This is the draft scope of work for the Western Rail Yards Modification Project. Just as I don't know if people have had a chance to review the draft scope of work. It is lengthy and not very informative. But just as a little bit of background from my understanding of what now is gathered from a couple of meetings, I did go to the Citi4 held a meeting on the casino proposals last night, which I attended. It was not about this particular project. It was just sort of a discussion about what the process is for the licensing of downstate casinos. Currently, I believe there are 5 proposals for potentially 3 sites in Manhattan, or several proposals for maybe 5 sites in Manhattan. The point is, 2 of them are in our district, one of which is the Western Rail Yards. My understanding from what I have learned is that this was previously zoned. We supported the rezoning of the rail yards to support residential building and significant residential building, and Related did nothing with that. They sat on it for about a decade, and then they found out, oh, well, this might also be a great spot for a casino. So now they're coming back and saying, instead of the residential housing that we promised, we're gonna put up these 2 giant buildings, commercial buildings. Well, one is commercial, one is a casino, hotel, and school for some reason. And then a smaller residential building that has approximately 300 affordable units. I can't remember the exact number on my top of my head, but it's significantly, even though there is residential being built, it is significantly less than the residential buildings that we were expecting and promised.
I was there.
That you were there, right? I was not. So thanks. Sorry, I'm recapping a thing that I was not present for. So just in terms of how the process actually works for the casinos and then what our role is right now, just talking about this draft scope of work. So for the casinos themselves, the process is, basically there's that draft text amendment that we all voted against last month or 2 months ago. And what that draft text amendment does would basically remove the ULURP process for putting in these casinos, because for this casino, you know, it would be a change of use for the space, so it would need to go through the ULURP process. And the mayor is trying to jam down this text amendment that says, no ULURP, you can go right to your proposals. So obviously it is, we voted against that, we took a strong stand against it. It is still incumbent on us to pressure our electeds to vote against that proposal, because it is coming up for vote in city council. And so it's not clear which way it's going to go. So we want to make sure that our electeds align with the community board. Regardless of that, and regardless of how that comes out, this proposal, they are still getting this proposal underway. And that starts with this long process of, you know, an environmental review, environmental impact, I forget all the acronyms, but yeah. And this draft scope of work. And so, but just really quickly to go back to what the general process is. So assuming that the land was rezoned for a casino, or this text amendment goes through and they don't need to rezone it. What happens at that point is there are 6 officials who can appoint a community advisory committee, much like we are appointed. 6 elected officials from the mayor, governor, our assembly person, city council member, state senator, and VP, borough president, each get to appoint one person to this community advisory council. And the community advisory council for the casino to get approved, it must get the votes of 2/3 of the community advisory council. And so separate and apart from, again, what we're going to be talking about now, at that point, I think it's before they make the appointments, it's going to be very important that we weigh in as a community board to our elected officials on how we're feeling about this proposal, because who they appoint to that board is incredibly important. They wield all the power, and so we want to make sure that we have some influence on that. In the meantime, this draft scope of work has come before us. As I said, it's sort of an undoing and unraveling of what a draft scope of work that was presented on and passed a decade ago. Since it is, regardless of what happens, it is going, you know, the draft scope of work is moving forward. So it is our time to provide our comments, questions, or comments and concerns on the draft. Obviously, all the different CB4 committees are looking at it. This is just like what we did with what we did most recently, Port Authority, yeah, and right. We just done this like 2 other times, exactly. So we as a transportation committee are just looking at the transportation aspects of the draft scope of work. And I think, Christine, you probably have a little more color from what your conversation yesterday that I was not able to.
Oh, yeah.
But
just let me summarize. I did the comparison of the old and the new, and the new is 2 flavors, right? The new is the flavor with the casino and without the casino, right? And so it's about the same size, the site has 5.5 acres, but the gross square feet is about the same size also, the old and the new. So the gross square feet is the same, and then it starts to be very different. So the original was between 4,600 residential to 507.62. So that was the original. The new one with the casino is only 1,500 residential, and without the casino would be 2,877, because they would build still commercial towers instead of residential.
Can I have a quick question about the commercial? commercial real estate is in a depression. Why are they even talking about them? They're talking about converting commercial
Land use
apartments
issue.
into houses.
Great question. Great question, but you know, if they say that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do.
I'm just confused.
Okay, retail, in the past, we were supposed to have 220,000 square feet, now we're going to have 24,000, or in the second scenario, 134. And now the things which are relevant to transportation, the total parking in the original was 1,600, which was a lot. Now they're asking for 725. And I want to say that the 725 is consistent with the zoning. So they are not exceeding they could have a lot more parking and they are asking for only 725. So 725 looked enormous to me, but I just want to give you the context that this is what the zoning is calling for. So, you know, then there is the second issue, which are the curb cuts. We were supposed to have 3 curb cuts, and now they want to have 8 curb cuts, including one on 11th Avenue. And then finally, they want to change 33rd Street to bring it up to one level, because 33rd Street today, if you put the picture of 33rd Street. 33rd Street comes from 11th Avenue and it goes down to 12th. It goes down significantly. I'm saying, you know, a big story. So when you are on the size of 33rd Street close to 12, if you enter there, you are really in the rail yard. So you don't have access to the property. So their idea is to take that street and make it all flat and bring it up. Right, bring it up to the property, because at the end, it doesn't work. Okay, so these are the things we have to discuss. And then any other traffic things that you are concerned about.
I have a question about the raising the street.
So that.
I have a question about raising the street. What is the intended route for either people or cars who are on 12th, who would like to go east?
Well, 33rd goes west. So
So
they're
you
not,
just,
right.
what about pedestrians? They're just,
Right.
you just
Yeah,
can't
and
go
then
on 33rd?
they said they are going to build a stair and elevator for people to come from 12th Avenue to come to the, to the left.
How long is the stairwell? Like how many stories?
What?
Do you know how many stories
I
the
would say
stairwell?
1 or 2.
Okay.
Right, yes. Who was?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Sorry, I was gonna tell you what I was.
Let me clarify something from last night, just to divert a little bit.
Yeah.
The fellow who was making the presentation, he said something about if you have a certain amount of commercial space, whether it's occupied or unoccupied, that's how you get around the ULUP process, or there's something, they seem to indicate that there's something automatic about positioning a casino in a space that is a certain amount of commercial space.
No, I
That's
don't think so. I think it was something to do with the text amendment, but my understanding was like nothing is zoned for casinos. Like there's nothing is zoned currently in New York City for casinos, which is why any casino space would have to go through ULUP unless the text amendment is passed.
Right, but they're only putting in supposedly the commercial industrial.
Correct. That is correct.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. I thought I overheard him say, I'll go back to the tape, I thought I overheard him say
I don't.
if there's a certain amount of commercial space.
That's a very good point.
Site,
Yeah.
and it kind of like.
We need to check it out.
Yeah.
Because that could be a motivation for.
That's very interesting.
Right. I don't care if the building's empty.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
These 725 parking spots.
Yes.
Will they be underground? We should
Yes.
insist that, oh, they are, oh,
Yeah.
wow, okay. That's good.
So another thing doesn't come on here, but again, as we've mentioned, trip generation.
Yeah.
Is gonna be a big thing. I think a precedent that we wanna remind people of is that, Related has a habit of not telling us everything we do with transportation. For example, building a road on Hudson Yards, putting the bollards, saying that it was only gonna be used to get people to
Yes.
the hotels, but obviously use it for even more than that, and then everyone told us there's gonna be a road on there from the initial plans. So I think if we cite that as a reason for concern that related will keep adding and adding, I think the chip generation data is a reason for concern, because obviously we live in an area that has less than 10% car ownership.
Right.
So with reducing the percent of the land use from residential to something else means we're likely adding land use that will increase
More,
chip generation that was originally
yes,
anticipated.
yes.
And also if there's gonna be more trips, and really it has a history of adding vehicular traffic on the sites, we're worried about there being roads, so we think we need to just say outright,
Okay, so-
no vehicles on the site. period.
Just, that's one thing which is very positive here, is that the old plan had 2 inside roads. In the space, and then a green space in between. This plan has no inside road, just green, so.
For now.
Right, well, that's something we need to, you're right, we need to be really careful about it, because, but that looks like it's a much greener space.
I mean, the Coldfish Show was also supposed to
Right.
collapse in sometimes.
Right. So but that's a good point. Yes.
The other concern I have, especially when it comes to the trip generation, is the impact on the West Side Highway and the pedestrian traffic, because of the congestion zone, including the Hudson Yards, but not the highway. The nightmare situation that I think we might also be facing are these busloads of casino goers pulling along the side of the highway, dumping people on the park, and they're gonna be hopping over the West Side Highway.
Taking the elevator.
Just, the same,
There's-
yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think that's a very realistic
Yeah.
concern we have to have. I mean, it's like, we're dealing with the football, the football scheme, what a great idea. Well, now we're doing the casino. So,
Always related, good ideas.
They would have to make a U-turn somewhere.
They're-
They're coming from,
I'm just.
No,
saying,
yeah,
there's
they have to
something-
go to 30 and come around,
Go to 30 to come
Yeah.
down,
which is not that far.
No.
I'm just saying, they're gonna be coming from Atlantic City, because the casinos are
Yeah.
down there, they're gonna be coming,
So,
Minibus.
so, I mean, I think we should fight the 725. Because
I
seven,
Can't we just say, I mean, do we just get laughed at if we say 0? Like, I mean, like, if we say absolutely, why is it, why, we've not had a casino in such a dense area.
right,
I don't know if a casino in such a dense area exists in the States. I don't know if that is, I mean, there is some degree of something unprecedented happening here.
yes,
And so I don't know if it's so unreasonable to say, actually, how about no parking? If
right.
you want people to come to your casino, they're.
How about
they-
bike parking for all the employees, or the blackjack
But
players?
that's,
who wanna
and
bike
that's
to
the
work?
thing, is that the way to reduce that is to ask for bike parking, for chargers for the cars, make it very expensive.
Right.
Make the
Another
parking
train tunnel
better.
under the Hudson River.
Right,
Yeah.
so.
Seven
bike
extension.
I would pay for the 7%, yeah.
Bike parking and chargers for all the cars is a good way of making everything way more expensive.
Make it-
But I think having another train connection from New Jersey, I think we're gonna say is a requirement.
Or add,
Requirement, I think it gives New Jersey to come gamble and spend their.
or they have to add ferry service.
Well,
They have to add ferry service,
just
they have to do their own ferry
the
service.
point of the thing in the future, the
Yeah.
charges might be very attractive.
Because of
for
the
people.
volume of the-
You know, 10, 15 years down the road, people might be riding electric,
Wait, one at a time, just.
people might be riding electric cars, so the charges will be an asset for them.
Yes,
We're trying to use it as a cause for the
no, but that's
mountain. It might
that's two
backfire,
sets.
what I'm saying, it might backfire.
Right.
Well,
But it
but
was
it's still
black
good to have
one.
the charging gen.
That's the
Right.
charges.
Electrified parking spots. I mean, yeah.
So the other thing we could do is ask, there is another area of parking, which is the Hudson Yards. And there is a special area where we sued the city and we won a settlement where
Yeah.
We sued the city and we won a settlement that it wouldn't be more than 6,000 cars ever. And there is still 1,000 available slots. right? So we could ask that those
Those are the
number
spots.
counts against,
Yeah.
because this one is outside.
Yeah.
So that would consume some of the slots that have not been consumed and prevent other people
That's right.
from parking, from building parking. So that's another thing we can do. Okay, the thing which concerned me the most, to be honest with you, I think the 33rd Street really concerns me, but I can't see a simple solution to it. The damn thing is going down and you have your entrance over there. And, you know, how do you, I mean, unless you create a ramp in the street and the rest of the street is there.
But there's plenty of streets in Manhattan that slope down, that have buildings, they just have.
But
to-
No, but the point is
But
that
they
on the
slope down.
side,
Along the grade.
you are on the radar. So if you open the door here, you are going to enter in the trends.
I see.
Right, so you need to bring it up. I
Right,
mean,
right,
when
right.
you are in the cellar, essentially.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So now they need to bring it up. And I really don't like this 33rd Street closed, but I don't know that there is any other way of doing it.
So how will this affect what's happening with the Holland, the Hudson Tunnel project on 29th and 30th? The work that they're expecting to do, all will be nothing.
No, there's a lot of construction, lots of construction.
Close to my neighborhood, maybe
Oh,
that's why I'm
okay.
reacting.
That I think we have the best chance of changing is the number of curb cuts. And I tell you what, they have curb cuts, you had a map, did you see the map, the curb cuts? You want to, we gotta get the map. of the curb cut.
That from the Dropbox.
Yes,
Okay, did
you have that somewhere.
What is?
So they
Oh,
have
Almost.
three curb cut on the south, three curb cut on the north, one curb cut on 11th Avenue. There are three of those curb cuts which are there because they want to do like a porte cochere. You know, you remember that, where they have the road going inside and coming outside? And, you know, they don't need to do that, right? They can just park on the side,
They're terrible.
right? So at least three of them could be removed if they don't do that, which is really good. And then they have this delivery thing on 11th Avenue. It's a loading dock on the 11th Avenue. And I said, well, you know, anybody who lives on 58th Street, you have those huge trucks for Whole Food and they're lining up. And I say, that's not going to be pretty in front of your. So I think we need to move that to 33rd Street. And if we could get those things done, we improve the
Maybe-
pedestrian, you know, movement.
Maybe what we should be telling him is that we're gonna kill all your doors with one stone. You're gonna have an entrance under your new street for your service entry. and your
No, they
deliveries
don't.
Under 33rd.
No, they don't, because it's at 11, it's at the same level.
Ramp down, ramp up.
Right.
They can split the street, ramp down, ramp
Oh,
up.
here.
Ramp down is your service entrance to the. to
No,
the-
you can't enter because you are getting into the yards.
The railroad track.
The railroad track.
Right there.
No, along, before you get onto the track.
Oh, you can do it below, right? Yes, that's a good idea, right?
So regular traffic goes on the Highview Street.
But I think if you go deep, you're
But
going
there's
to
a-
get the tracks. Anyway, we can float it.
Like, we want an 11th Avenue bike lane at some point, going all the way
I
down.
told them, I
Go-
told
down
them.
there, and the curb cut 11 is a problem with
Absolutely,
that.
a big problem,
Protected by.
especially for loading, because it's going to be all the loading and the trash and everything is going to be a line of trucks.
We exist that Porco Share should have to have cobblestones.
Right. So that's, and then they said the school entrance is next to the loading. And I said, why don't you put the school entrance on 11th Avenue? Because here you're going to have all the trucks there. So I think we have a bunch of suggestions there.
To echo Brett's comments about the driveways and Hudson Yards, I mean, I see this public open space and it looks nice, but the public open space in Hudson Yards is very underused.
Oh,
It's
yeah, we
mostly,
have to
it's
do
like
that.
black
No.
Uber SUVs
Right.
driving on it.
No, we have to.
Let's make it
a
inviting
real
public
park.
space, a
We
real
have
park,
to save
yeah.
the park.
Yeah, not just like the
Here's sea green, we wanna be sea green.
Yeah, I don't wanna see gray with black,
Yeah.
Cadillac Escalades on it.
I mean, part of the history of the culture shed, they argued that that because their culture shed can now slide into the building, it's now open space. And really actually got the rights to build another 100,000 square feet of
Yes.
developable space in their buildings as a result. And then they went ahead and just never closed in.
They can't close it because you have to call the guy from Italy.
Well,
To close it.
so the wheels are rusted from underneath.
I'm serious, when we asked him, and we started to say,
Yeah.
it's always open, so why aren't you closing? Oh, well.
But they got 100,000 square foot gifts
I know,
from that,
That's-
and then
and then the
they
better.
did. So, and then they built the road, so there's not even open space
It's
where
horrible.
they're supposed to be calculating open space, so.
Right.
And the
I
vessel's
don't,
closed.
I simply don't trust.
I don't
So
trust that.
what like makes it a park? Like, what do we specifically stipulate? Like, there has to be grass, there has to be
Yeah, we need to.
like nature, like, what's an actual requirement?
95% or 100% is planted.
Can kids run around without fear of getting run over by a bus?
Needs to be planted,
Could you throw a frisbee?
Can you play ultimate frisbee? That's exactly what I said. Like, that is exactly.
yeah.
Okay, so it's planted and like,
Right.
the ground
planted,
surface
maybe
should be something
5%
not
or
asphalt, yeah.
2% is in, cobblestone for people to walk around.
Passive and active.
Just a place where people can go and they have the right of way, not the car.
Well, we need to be more aggressive.
But that's the.
So these are the
Should it be
transportation things, obviously, the traffic, how many cars are coming, 34th Street coming down.
Should we say that it's elevated, like if you, even like a 1 foot curb will deter most vehicles, that'd be another way.
From where?
Like,
From what?
the public opens, like there'll be a walkway presumably, like in Hudson Yards today, the problem is
You have a big.
cars go in there because it's, the whole thing is flat, like relative to the
Wait.
street, so you can just drive through. But even like a 1 foot curb, that's not an obstacle for a person on foot, can just walk on, but that is an obstacle to a car. That would be a deterrent from it ever being functionally a road.
Okay, there was a picture in,
You know, page.
I can't recall, this is all over the place.
By the way, there's a documentary on the stadium,
Project.
you get a chance.
There's a documentary on like.
On the stadium,
On the stadium.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
on the
I
fight,
recall that
Are you in it?
yeah.
Are you?
she put
Oh, I
very
was
hard
in
for the
the-
parking, recall.
Well, that's why
the
we
zoning,
did
the
the
rezoning
lawsuit.
of all that, and
Oh.
Where is this? Where is
and
this?
all the affordable housing that was supposed to come that rezoning, they got an upscale. Housing was supposed to come out of that. We haven't seen that.
Right, we were furious with Christine Quinn, which was our, we had a very bad meeting. At the end. What's going on? Huh?
She was the council.
And she caved. Yeah,
Stadium.
so anyway, what else?
I'm looking at, the alternative scenario conceptual site plan
Yeah,
and site B, which is a tall building that sits on top of the school. And underneath, embedded in the school, is commercial space. Is that
no, I think
community
it's
space?
retail, it's retail,
Right?
retail,
So retail right inside the school.
next to the school, is
No,
it
it's-
in the school?
Yeah.
No, it's the building is commercial, and the school is under it,
Right, the school is kind of like an L shape,
right,
and there's commercial or retail embedded into the school.
I think it's
It's
commercial.
probably because
though.
there's a street front retail requirement.
I think we also asked for a library. I recall, we've asked for a library.
You guys watch it, yeah.
Yeah,
On
I
YouTube.
guess if you do your
No,
job.
exactly.
Okay, so these are, anybody has any other concern that we should put in,
And this in no way authorizes a casino or.
No. We are
We're not
not
discussing the merits of
We are not
this.
discussing the merits of the casino,
no, but what
obviously.
they are doing is front running.
Right.
Right.
What they're front running is they are
Well,
creating.
They're covering what.
Well, that's curious, because probably just writing like
Yes,
a very vociferous objection to the
Right,
core concept.
yes, I talked to
Yeah.
Joe. this
So that's,
afternoon.
that'll be in there.
Yeah, and we, and,
Yes.
right, and
We
we'll,
agree,
we'll
we
get the
don't need
letter,
that.
we'll get passed around, like, from all the communities, but,
Right. So as far as, so and again, it's a scoping, it's not, critique what they gave, it's more like, please study this is what you
Yeah,
did
that's
for a
it.
matchup. So we're gonna say, please study this, please study that, because we don't think it's a good idea, right? And, I mean, it's far away on the west side that maybe the traffic is not going to be a major issue, but.
they're gonna give, they're gonna give people waivers for
Well, it's
the
plenty of
congestion. The casino's gonna say, we will cover your congestion fee.
Oh.
They're definitely gonna do that.
That's
Free parking.
no
No
waiver,
call
no waiver, oh, that's a good one. I
that, no
like it.
call
There's plenty of traffic there now.
Yeah.
Where, at 34?
No, on that whole 11th Avenue street.
Right, and 30 is horrible.
Yeah.
So what they are proposing here at 30 with 3 curb cut and 3 entries, it's going to be, plus all the buses for the kids.
I have a question, it might not be legal. Is if we can insist that they pay for public transit, people who come. In other words, if you come, I mean, obviously it's not a casino yet, but whatever the venue is, if you're gonna come, they will pay for your transit, whether you're coming Long Island Railroad.
Yeah, but if you do that, then they are going
They will do that.
to.
They just-
And
okay.
congestion pricing.
I don't know.
I think you are opening the door, giving them congestion pricing later.
No, just.
No, but I mean, if you give a credit on that side, they're going to ask for credit on the other side.
We give them nothing.
Right.
I'm just saying, I don't know if it's legal.
I don't think you can
I don't-
force,
Yeah.
So these are the things, if you have any other idea in the next 2-3 days.
Send
Send us- send us-
we'll go, because, well, we have to add our part to the
Right.
fuller draft, so people will get a chance
Yeah.
to see it.
We'll give it to the executive committee and then they are going to pull it together.
Yeah, but, do we need to, I guess we still need to vote on all that was discussed. I wasn't doing a great job of taking notes on that one, because I saw you doing it, I was like, Christine got this. Everyone gets a general sense of,
I make a motion.
Okay.
no motion.
Another one?
Okay, all those in favor of.
Okay.
All, anyone opposed? President Oswald, excellent, all right, great.
Okay, now,
Now.
final.
Can I just ask a quick question on something
Yeah.
else? I've noticed in Chelsea, on the west side, these antenna-like poles that are being installed on light posts, lamp posts.
Yes, that's the 5G.
The Rush.
5G.
5G.
Those are the new 5G?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
no, I love this stuff. Unless he's talking about the new
What is
congestion
he talking
pricing
about?
stuff.
What are you
Where are the
talking about? Where are the poles?
The poles, they're on 10th Avenue and 22nd Street, they're on the highway in 22nd Street.
That's
It seems
the,
to fun.
No, that's- yeah,
Congestion.
Yeah.
that's congestion.
Gantries for.
They come and they go across.
No, these are just.
Oh, that's 5G.
That's
Antenna
5G
pole.
there.
That's the 5G.
We're not, are we getting those like?
Yeah, I thought that was
Towers,
Flex
they're
West
coming to our district?
I thought that was.
I think I wanted this one.
I just received a notice and I was going to write a letter saying move it up by 1 block, but they are doing it as of right, so. There is a contract, there is a Linksys, all that stuff is as of right, we don't have.
I mean, you hardly notice them. You really don't even notice them.
They are on the pole, on the light pole
Really?
or separate?
Yeah, I feel like you're the only one who has that opinion.
Well, no, it must be different.
It doesn't have to be different. The whole thing is that they're like they're unsightly. and
It's like the Washington Monument.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, I have to bring this up because the first, when I joined the community board, we had like a lunch, like a Christina invited the new members.
Right,
And we talked about the 5G poles, which are clearly hypothetical. And I have to say, I think the 5G poles are a good thing. I'm gonna give a very specific reason, which is that right now, home internet is basically a monopoly. You have one provider
yes.
for anybody. And if your provider doesn't treat you well, that's just your life, unless you're willing to move to get a new internet provider.
So why don't we?
With the 5G home internet is gonna make it not a monopoly.
Oh,
I think you be positive social.
Hold on, wait, before we get too far into this.
That's something else.
Hold on, before we get too far into this, these are on sidewalks.
Right.
I'm happy to, let's add this to the agenda for next month, let's talk about them, let's do that.
But by the way, this is something else. These are measurement or camera or sound camera or something, camera for enforcement.
We've read the liberty. Well, the core saying we don't want the link.
It's the Russians,
There is somebody
I
who
think that-
likes to speak.
right?
So we are moving on to item number 5.
Christine, I'm telling you, it's the Russians.
Please, move on to item number 5. This is the canoe review,
Canoe.
which, you know, not for the first
No.
4 minutes of Christine explaining this, you may be thinking, what canoe are you talking about?
We spent many years on that.
I was like, I prefer kayaks. Anyway, this is West 36th, 9th Avenue.
And we need,
what's his name? Who is present? Daniel.
Yes, Dan.
Sorry for the delay.
So I want to do a little bit of an introduction on that.
Go ahead.
The canoe was put on the agenda of WPE. And I was surprised, and so I was told that it was there because there was a discussion about syringe. And then there were discussion between the bid and another committee about syringe, and therefore it was put on WPE to talk about that. And then I discovered during the meeting that it was not about syringe. And there was a whole discussion about how do we make the canoe better. And because the canoe is essentially a sidewalk, you know, it's a sidewalk extended, right? It's so I propose that we do a joint letter so that we as transportation can have our opinion factored in. So that's why this is on the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. Good setup. And
Here is Danielle.
Daniel to speak on it. Thank you for your patience.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, go ahead.
Can you, do
You want to do the presentation? You guys have it?
Oh, yeah, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, it'd be great if we're gonna put it up. Thank you.
It's just some slides I put together. Not really a formal presentation.
I really thought we were taking this transportation way too far.
Can you?
After the floods happen.
You
Alright.
could, do I control it? No, Janine has to control it, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know when to.
So, Christine, definitely interrupt me at any time, because this photo, for example, was before my time at the bid. By the way, my name is Dan Scorse. I'm the Vice President of Operations for the Hudson Yards Hell's Kitchen Alliance. The bid that has the canoes inside the bid. We also operate and maintain Bella Abzug Park, where the 7 train station is. So this photo was taken at least 10 years ago, right, Christine? Maybe longer. So this is 36th Street looking west towards Dyer Avenue, and you can see ramp C on the right. That's the entrance to the Lincoln Tunnel from 9th Avenue. So this is what the canoe used to look like. It wasn't usable. There was no sidewalk. It was parking for police officers from Midtown South. Next slide.
You said how they just walk 2 lanes of the street on 9th Avenue.
So, thanks to the work of Christine and others, DOT actually created, the canoe, the pavement of the canoe, and then the Parks Department planted a row of those 9 trees on the south side of the canoe. This is what it looked like basically when the bid was formed in 2014.
So let me add something. It's called a canoe because you can see that it has, at each end, there is an entrance. And so the DOT called that the canoe. And then another interesting fact is that this is one of the wins we had from the Western Rail Yard rezoning. So from the Western Rail Yard rezoning, we had, let's do some greenery, etc. And I went walking DOT around and we say, oh, why don't we do this? And then that was the beginning. It took.
Point of official, right? We went to the swearing in of the canoe. There was an actual old school canoe. I thought that was gonna
You're
be
going to
that
see
thing.
that. You're going to see
All
that.
right.
It's in the presentation. Okay,
Okay.
so next slide. Council member Johnson at the time gave the bid some funding for some furniture. We also, as you can see, added plantings in the tree pits on the left side. So this was probably 2016, we might guess. Next slide. Then through the DOT public art program, we got the Ascension, was local artist made. And it was on DOT property for a while, but then we actually moved it to the Port Authority property, just a few feet to the
Oh, yeah,
left.
that's something we didn't discuss. So the northern parts of the northern part of the Canoe belongs to the Port Authority, and the southern part belongs to DOT. And you can imagine how complicated everything is when you want to do something, but you know, they work together and we got it done.
Yeah. Next slide.
So it's Colleen. Thanks to Christine, we were able to make this a beautiful space.
Thank you, Colleen.
So it's just another photo from that time. Keep going. So yeah, and then we got more money for more furniture, so we kind of just expanded it down the Canoe on both sides. Next photo. And then we don't have to go into the details, Christine, but through Christine and the Parks Department, a local developer essentially created a block-long tree pit on the northern side of the Canoe. It's about, I don't know, 150 feet long, and it's got, I think, 9 trees in it. And then we fully planted it out and did irrigation and tree guard. It's quite nice. Next photo. There, someone was talking about the canoe launch. So you guys know a lot of the people in this picture. Next slide. And of course, that's one of our favorites.
Was I happy or what?
And behind Christine is Bob Benfato, who was the district manager of CB4 and now is the president of HYHK, my boss. Next slide. And so this is, this was probably at its most successful. We had the greening on both sides, and tables and chairs, and for a while at the beginning we had some problems, but then we solved those problems with NYPD paid detail. And for a little while, probably maybe 2019 or so, it was pretty good. Next slide. So another good example of people using the space respectfully. Next slide. But as you know, there are problems in the area, particularly in the Canoe, particularly encampments for a while, and then of course now heroin is a tremendous problem. You could flip through the next couple slides. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Yeah, there was a guy basically living there for a while. And yeah, so these folks, they're heroin addicts. And they were there for on and off for quite a while. During the pandemic, things really took a turn for the worse. The police, the paid detail really stopped being effective for 2 reasons. One, there weren't enough officers for it. Officers left the force. They were doing forced overtime, so they weren't available to do paid detail. So we just weren't getting officers. And then when officers would come, as you I think all know, some laws changed, and so some of the things that they used to be able to enforce, they couldn't enforce, and so it became a big problem to the point where for several years in a row we were forced to just remove the tables and chairs because it created a situation that was just too comfortable for people, frankly. Just because we removed the tables and chairs, that doesn't mean the problem went away. It just wasn't quite as serious, and it wasn't necessarily our problem, HYHK. When we put tables and chairs out and bad things happen, we get the phone call about it. So we essentially stopped doing that, at least temporarily. And so, that's basically the presentation. As Christine said, I was invited by Leslie to the Parks, committee last week. She just wanted me there to talk about it. So I did. And now Christine invited me. And Christine's on HYHK board, as you probably know. So I know Christine very well. Yeah, so we can talk about it, have a discussion. I'm sure Christine is going to have a few things to say.
Thank you, Dan.
So in order to improve the experience, first of all, I should say that this is a sidewalk. It's not that wide. I mean, you have seen that, right? It's 10 feet, 12 feet.
Quite 12 feet.
Right. So it's not a park, and it's not even a plaza. It's really designed as a promenade, right? Or an alley. And it's used intensively because at the end of the 36th Street is the Javits Center. So a lot of people are walking by. Okay, you don't see it now on this picture, but a lot of people are walking by. So it's being used as originally intended, but indeed the table and chairs are very nice. So the Parks Committee recommended that they add lighting at night because there is no lighting there. So it's very dark. And so at least they could study to do the lighting and see maybe when we negotiate with the Port Authority, we get them to pay for the lighting, right? But at least study it so that we have all the information in front of us. And then they are possibly trying to put, some table and chairs just very close to 9th Avenue and not further down. So that, because the problems are more focused on Dyer Avenue. So maybe that's a suggestion. And then the last suggestion is that what they were talking about is that if this was part of a park and related to the Parks Department, they could have pet office, what is called pet officers, which are parks officers, enforcement, and they do a very good job, and they are much more aggressive than others, etc. So another idea was to say, let's attach that to other parks that a Port Authority is going to do for us, and then you could have pets in that space as well as the other parks. And so extend the concept and use that in this location.
I'm getting a state trooper there because that little park is state owned, isn't it?
What?
The eastern part of the Canoe is state property, correct?
No, the north side, which is what is to your left, is owned by the Port Authority.
They have their own police department. Authority.
What?
They have their own police authority. They will come in.
But I'm not talking, no.
They do. And the Port Authority police can be very effective with certain things, but they're not going to be there, day in and day out on an hour by hour basis. But when there were encampments, actual structures, built on Port Authority property, they would come and take them down. But for just someone, who's doing some antisocial behavior, they're not gonna respond to that on a day in and day out basis. I just wanted to add something. Christine mentioned the PEP officers. So HYHK is part of the contracted services program the Parks Department has. So if you've been to Bella Abzug Park and you've seen the PEP officers there, HYHK actually reimburses the city for those costs, which is a really, really fantastic thing because, like Christine said, the PEP officers, they specialize in quality of life issues. If you get shot, you don't call the PEP officer, you call MIPD. But if someone is, smoking in a park, or there's an adult in a kid's playground, or someone's shooting up, something like that, that's when PEP that's exactly what they will handle. And they don't have guns. So they can be very effective with the quality of life issues that we are all familiar with in Midtown. So since we already have PEP officers at Bella Abzug Park, their command is on 36th Street between 10th and 11th, very close. So it wouldn't be too much of a lift to have those officers swing through the Canoe periodically if they were allowed to. Right now, they have absolutely no jurisdiction to do that, but it is possible. The Parks Department has signed agreements with other agencies that allow them to patrol other agencies' property. For example, Hudson River Park is not a city park, but PEP officers patrol it. So there is some precedent for it. So it was an idea that was thrown out there as a possibility. And then, Christine mentioned lighting definitely would be useful there. We all love trees, but trees do block street lights to a certain extent. So it does get a little darker in the summertime in particular. And, Christine mentioned the tables and chairs closer to 9th Avenue. One of the reasons we wanted to do this way back when was because, 9th Avenue has all these great restaurants, but no, people can't eat outside. And even with outdoor dining, 9th Avenue is not the greatest space for it. There's just not that much space. So the Canoe is an option for people who wanted to just grab a bite to eat or a coffee and hang out. And as you saw from these pictures, a lot of people did do that. As crazy as this intersection is, in the morning, people coming into the city, in the afternoon, Ramp C is jam-packed. But if you go there at 12 noon, it's actually quite quiet and nice. And that's what people did. People would come at lunchtime and enjoy it. So it does have some potential.
Yeah,
So,
he was.
I was gonna say, if PEP does take over the space, maybe a station with rotating personnel could be there. Could be also be used as an information section, but just to have a constant presence in a station where they rotate the personnel might be a good idea also.
There's not a lot of space. There is not a lot of space there.
Yeah.
But he said they are at 36th Street at the next block, right? So they can come over, rotate. Yeah. You had your hand.
Yeah, I was just curious. Is there any way we can get social workers and mental health people? I mean, the borough president has this whole thing about mental health. Maybe we can get these people that are lying down have actually problems. I mean, so you're gonna get the park police to get rid of them. They're just gonna go on 38th Street, on 8th Avenue, between 9th and 9th Avenue, they're gonna hang out.
But this should be a discussion that HHN and because we are not qualified for that.
No, but I mean, if we can at least refer it over to them about mental health and social workers, that committee you just said.
HHN.
Maybe we could refer it to them because it's a serious issue.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the social service outreach groups are very familiar with this area, and they come there regularly. So these folks definitely got where people would speak to them regularly. I saw it many times. But as you know, the folks are not required to take assistance, and most of the time they will deny the assistance. And
I have a follow-up question. Who cleans the area now? I mean, if there's constant water going.
We do.
So you got some water and those guys are there, they're gonna leave. It's gonna be water, it's gonna be nasty for them. You might just want to do that a lot.
I thought we didn't want to move them.
Yeah. You're not the first person to suggest that, but we're not getting into fights with these people.
Well, I think that's what Brian Park has done in the 34th Street. That's why I mentioned it. I've been to some of their board meetings.
Well, the Port Authority has done that.
So far we've heard lights, we've heard having the PEP officers extend their patrol a little bit. swim upriver a little bit so we can.
Yeah, and then try
and then-
to put some tables, but close to Ninth Avenue.
And then move the tables closer to Ninth Avenue.
Right.
But we try putting some tables back for the summer,
There's,
see how it goes.
the only thing I can think of is resurfacing the layer of the ground so that it becomes very uncomfortable. But again, so you're defeating the,
Yeah.
like a stock hole.
So we're good,
Cobblestones.
we can, because these are, these are the,
It's the sidewalk. Those people are not that motivated.
so these are the same kind of things that we had discussed at parks, so that's good. If we have that, we can make one combined letter. Right?
Yep.
Do we have a?
So we have a motion
I
for,
just want to put a friendly amendment to refer it over to the health and services also.
Yes.
sure, actually, I agree, I think they should be in on this, yeah, I support that.
But I think,
So,
Vinny, could you go to there's, I think there's a couple more slides, because I think the most important thing that I wanted to say is that at least it's better than it was then. This is what it looks like now, and I think it's quite nice.
that's great, thank you very much. Daniel, we may be recommending that you give this presentation one more time to HHHS. So Sacklin, thank you very much for coming tonight. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
We did, we have a second.
I second.
Oh, amazing, sorry, all those in favor?
Okay.
Anyone opposed? Mayor President Oswald, thank you, great, thank you so much, Daniel.
And
Thank you.
this
Yes.
business, right?
So a quick new business, from, Jonathan Weissman, just to set it up for us. We're not gonna take it on tonight because, it's not on our agenda, but I think Jonathan, had a topic that he wanted us to suggest. So Jonathan, we'll just give you 1 minute just to set it up and then we can put it on our agenda for next month. But come on over, Jonathan, and tell us about the, slip. What? All right. The slip, yeah, well, all these boat terms, the news slips.
Unmute. Actually, thank you again, everybody, for taking time. Again, I'll be very, very brief. It's not so much about the slip, to be honest with you. It's more about the creation and solution of how much congestion that has been created in that section of or area. And hopefully, I could present or find with DOT a solution on how to alleviate all that traffic. I do take the M11 bus when I do go down, and it's literally slowed down to a crawl. Actually, M11 bus is probably rated the worst now in the city, from what I understand. And so I'm just trying to find a solution. I like the slip. I think the slip is a great idea. I think there's just maybe moments or times during the day, maybe after 10 o'clock on busy nights, that it may be looked at to be open or not, or some kind of flexibility. That's all. So maybe we can just talk to DOT, or maybe I could present something maybe more in depth next.
Yeah, that's great. Present, and honestly, Jonathan, maybe you, me, and Christine should hop on. We didn't get a chance to because this came relatively late to us. But let's connect and see if we can figure out what the next agenda item should look like for next month.
Yeah, that would be cool. I just want to be able to take the bus and not be stuck in traffic, to be honest.
I think that's a very reasonable. So we will.
Bring pictures.
Put that on. Yeah, we want pictures.
I have pictures, but I'll organize it with you and Christine.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. So that's
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor, great.
All right.
Thank you all so much.
Thank
Thank you, Janine. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Candace. Have a great night, everybody.